I'm for cutting a lot of spending, as I said. But you know, even under those conditions, I still have priorities. If we work our way out of it, we could have priorities and try to take care of those who have been taught to be so dependent. You don't need to start on food stamps. I think you should start on all the foreign spending and cut that. This absolute necessity to go about the world spreading our goodness, and they call it spreading our exceptionalism. And this has been going on since Woodrow Wilson, you know, make the world safe for democracy. Some people have named this neo-Jacobinism, you know, this idea that we can force people to be good. Well, I'll tell you what, we have been an exceptional nation. We at one time understood property rights and monetary policy and contract rights, limited government, and yet today we have lost that. But if you are an exceptional nation, if we are to be an exceptional nation, people will want to emulate us. They'll want to copy us. You can't go overseas and tell them, do this, or if you do it, we'll give you money. If you don't do it, we'll bomb you. That's not the way to change the world. So often the argument is used against legalizing freedom of choice in society. When people hurt each other and damage each other, obviously that's the purpose of government, to take care of those problems. But when people spend their money in a way that you don't approve, or have a lifestyle that you don't approve of, and you say the government has to come in and change it, then all of a sudden, you know, what we do is we just get into more and more trouble. And people will say, well, I can't allow people to spend their money. They might not do it wisely. I can't allow them to do this. They might become a gambler. It'll be all my fault because I allowed them to do this. But you know, by legalizing something and legalizing freedom of choice, you don't endorse it. Because people use their religion in a way you don't want to. You don't endorse their religion. Probably the most important thing for me personally is thinking about striving for excellence and virtue and dealing with spiritual life. And that should be in the business of government. And under those conditions, though, government should just stay out of it. Now, our spiritual life and our intellectual life, why is it that we automatically say we need the FDA to tell us everything we ever do about putting what we put into our own bodies? You know, I've talked for a long time about the war on drugs. I think the war on drugs has been a total failure. I think they're a mess, but I also know that drug addiction of prescription drugs is a lot worse than illegal drugs. I also know that addiction should be a crime, and we shouldn't throw people in prison that didn't commit a violent crime and turn them into criminals. Our country tried prohibition back when they passed the 18th Amendment, and you know, just think of the difference in that period of time. They actually amended the Constitution to change this and give the power to the government. Today, the government just doesn't never think about it. But that was a total failure, so the people woke up and said we had to repeal the prohibition. And today, though, I think we're making great progress. When you see Pat Robertson coming out and saying, "Hey, let's look at this more carefully," and he, like I, was very reserved on saying drugs are dangerous, but there's a lot of danger. Who's responsible for protecting you against yourself? When the government thinks they can do that, they'll regulate every single thing you do. They'll tell you how much salt you can put on your food. A lot of money, but it's also one of the excuses for the violation of our civil liberties. And guess what? Guess who some of the organized efforts are against the changing the drug laws? Alcohol companies. They don't want people using something in place of alcohol. Also the drug companies. What if you started using something that you could grow in your backyard and you didn't buy all those expensive drugs? raw milk, you might be prohibited by the federal government. Now, just because there's such a poor understanding on the war on drugs, there was a product, a commercial product that we had for years. The founders grew it in their backyards and in their fields. And we used it during World War II, but because of the war on drugs, they prohibit this country from growing hemp. Now one of their excuses is, well, it looks like marijuana. They say they better not do it. I say, yeah, but if somebody wanted to get high on hemp, they'd have to smoke a cigar as big as a phone pole. This freedom doesn't work, though, unless we do one thing. We have to assume responsibility for ourselves. If we assume, like in economics, the government's always the lender of last resort, and they bail out the big guys. If the government is always the protector of last resort, if you do something that makes no sense and you do harm to yourself, you shouldn't be able to come and coerce your neighbor to take care of you. So freedom does imply responsibility. John Adams argued the case that if we became a less moral society, an immoral society cannot have liberty because they abuse it. And in many ways, I think this is what's been happening to us. I think a lot about the abortion issue and the problems that we've had there. Well, the laws were, abortions were done in the 60s illegally. So the law wasn't changed. What happened is the attitude was changed and then the laws were changed. So the laws do reflect the people. So many of our problems is a reflection of, our moral behavior. And so there's a lot of responsibility on us as individuals, and assuming this responsibility is crucial. But to assume that the government is always going to be there for us to take care of us, it doesn't work. And the more the government is involved, they say, well, if you do such and such, that'll be a cost to government. Well, the government is nothing more than a thief in the night that comes and redistributes wealth. Thing we do to carry on this revolution is to recognize that we live in dangerous time and recognize that there is a larger number than ever who now are joining in the freedom movement and believe in individual liberty, believe in the rule of law. And therefore, we have a responsibility. Individuals like you that would come out and listen to a talk like this are different than the average person. The average person is home doing something else, and then they may vote, and if they do vote, they might not ask whom they're going to vote for until the day before they vote. But individuals like you who become knowledgeable and understand the problems, I believe you have a great responsibility. If you have your head in your sand, you can't get blamed for a whole lot. I think the most important thing is to become knowledgeable, believe in it, and if you're prepared to understand what liberty is all about and you want to participate, people will ask me, what should I do? Where should I go? Well, if you're prepared and you have credible evidence that you're convinced, somebody will make use of your talent.